it was so exciting because my goal when I wrote the book was for it to be turned into a movie, and for that to happen in the way that it did was great. And I thought, the book is a lot darker. There's a lot more craziness to it. It's the first time I feel like I've ever seen a movie have to tone down the craziness to make it relatable. I really enjoyed the film. I thought it took the story, made it universal, and also made it fun. And I think Tommy, he's like, I approve 99%. Like, what's not 1%? Oh, lighting, beginning of movie is not consistent. I'm sorry, I give you my opinion. They all look at each other and like, oh, he was wearing his sunglasses while he was watching the movie. I guess 99% is good coming from him.
I think we got 2 more questions before intermission. Hi. I was just wondering, of course you wrote this for you and Tommy to star in. If Tommy had said no and you couldn't muscle him into it, would you have gone forward with it? And if you would have, is there anyone else that you would have thought of for the role?
Well, I think Daniel Day-Lewis was shooting Phantom Thread, so that wouldn't have worked. Yeah, no, this was definitely, part 2 was more its own thing, but for that part, for him, it wouldn't have made sense if he wasn't in it. So, yeah, it was mainly to make a reunion film.
Okay, one more question. We'll have a second Q&A after the second film, and Greg will be outside during the intermission.
So, seeing this so far, I gotta say, what a story, Mark. But after that, listening to your story about this, watching the movie, there's clearly a lot of heart put in, a lot of the relationship that you and Tommy have put into this movie. With that said, is there any particular takeaway you want the audience to have? Anything you wanted them to have coming in here, putting on the movie? Any takeaway?
I think I just really wanted kind of an element of surprise. I think The Room has been screening monthly for 15 years, and you come to it and it's ridiculous. And I think with this movie, I think you come in and you're accustomed to that, and so there's going to be moments of it. But I'm hoping by the end of part 2, it'll give you a different flavor, and a different journey that you can kind of look back on, and hopefully, have it be memorable. I think the biggest thing people talk about bad movies, but I think what constitutes a bad movie to me is that when you leave, it doesn't give you anything. You don't think about it the next day. It just kind of passes through. And The Room is one of those movies you see it, and it's so bad for different reasons, but you still want to talk about it and share it with your friends. So, my hope is that these movies make you laugh, but at the same time make you remember something and get something out of it.
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute intermission, and we're going to go right into the film, like I said, right to the outside. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And Q&A after part 2.
All right, I'll be the one to ask. How the heck did the guy with the burnt face even know where to go?
When you see an ATM sticking out of somebody's car, I think that was kind of the dead giveaway. But you know what? That was kind of a symbolic moment because I feel like these guys didn't deserve a happy ending. And so he was kind of like the middle finger of the whole.
I thought you were setting up part 3.
Can you tell us a little bit of your inspiration for Harvey and John? Where did those characters come from?
They're kind of a loose look at my friendship with Tommy in a way. In a lot of ways it's symbolic of The Room because I didn't want to do The Room, I didn't believe in it, and he kept saying if you don't do The Room, it'll be the biggest mistake you'd ever make. And through this crazy journey, I realized that The Room gave me kind of everything I had hoped for, a platform to do everything I wanted to, and that kind of represented the house in a way. So it's a little bit like the Wizard of Oz, take that and put it into a dream scenario and end up in the desert with gold teeth. And so it kind of, I think anytime you're working on a story, if you know your characters, you can take them anywhere. And so that's kind of what this is about. we shot a moment in which John's having like a paranoid dream and the clown comes alive, and the guy was like kind of creeping behind Tommy, who's on the typewriter, and I thought he was just gonna kind of go up and like reach for him and then just gonna cut. But this guy walks up behind Tommy and starts violently choking him as hard as he can, and Tommy's like, cut! And he jumps up, he's like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Can I teach you about acting? And I'm like watching this from afar, Tommy giving a clown acting lesson. What has my life come to? So it was the funniest thing I've ever tried. I laughed about it for weeks later, and I would laugh uncontrollably if I really thought about it. So we put a little bit of that snippet of him being choked. So there will be a clown section on the Blu-ray. Yeah, it was unreal. Like that's one of the things about working with Tommy. Every day is a surprise. So the clown was so much fun.
Watching the credits, I was reminded of your book when I saw line producer Mark Damon. You'll play Mark Damon.
Yeah, that was just thrown in there for anybody who would pick up on it. There was no line producer named Mark Damon, but I feel like he's long overdue for some sort of credit, wherever Mark Damon may be.
So, like, aside from your next horror venture, which I'm really excited about, by the way, I really want to see you guys do a horror movie, seriously. Do you guys have any plans beyond a horror movie, like, say, a sequel to this? Because I really want to know what a baking scientist is.
He didn't get into Colorado State, unfortunately. So, I'm interested in doing like a TV series. So like a true crime TV series, something like that. But yeah, I mean, I thought about it. I mean, Uncle Rick would have to come back to life if I were to make it 3. So yeah, never say never though. Maybe just call it Best Friends Part 3 Bakery Science.
First, can I say Uncle Rick the show, backstory, anything? But just I almost couldn't pay attention to the rest of the movie. I was trying to figure out the little Catholic Crusader motif. What were the pictures? What was of him? What's the hell? What is?
Yeah, so Tommy's character like was into Knight mythology, and so in his basement he had like photos of like the girl that he loved, the Black Valley that had been killed, and he like studied heroes and knights, and so that was kind of his way of looking at friendship, like going to save his friend. It was a hell of an outfit though. It looked more like the Zodiac killer.
Ted Cruz?
But that was that was what he was basically about.
Hi, I was just curious how Paul Scheer got involved into it.
Yeah, Paul Scheer, it's funny, he's in these movies and he's in Slice, which is coming up.
So we have a 920.
Triple feature Paul Scheer, and he's doing concessions out there right now. Yeah, no, I was on Paul's podcast, How Did This Get Made, which if you guys haven't listened to it, it's one of the best podcasts out there. In 2011, we talked about The Room and just stayed in touch, and obviously the book, and then he was in The Disaster Artist, and I just said, hey, I want to complete the Room trilogy, and I'd love you to be part of it. So I sent him the script, and he's like, sure, I'm in, and he's like, I didn't realize I was going to be in 2 movies, but that's even better. So he was great to work with, and we met him for a couple days, and just a total pro and so much fun.
All right, you've got time for one more question? Anyone's got to go?
You've always played up how Tommy Wiseau, you don't really know his age. There were some awesome pictures in that movie of young Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah.
And
There's some in the
really
book.
good.
Yeah, there's some in the book as well, but yeah, no, I know, he looks normal.
So there's not Photoshop, that's just young Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, a little. For the most part, it's Tommy Wiseau. Really quickly, think about Uncle Rick. Somebody brought this up recently. They're like, he's a villainous Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. And I didn't even think of that. Yeah, he's like, Uncle Rico 10 years later, completely gone off the rails. And then another thing I didn't realize was the hotel manager Yeah, I can. I didn't even know, like, you said that line, bitches. And I'm like, what? I had no idea that was even there. And so, again, a lot of, like, really random gifts with this.
What's the release schedule for when's it gonna be?
So it comes out on January 22nd worldwide on VOD and Blu-ray. And you can have both movies on one disc with an Uncle Rick special, a clown special, and a bunch of other outtakes. So.
Nice.